think it takes a minute to get there.
I mean,
because I have lower payments.
Thank you.
We go.
Are we starting yet?
Yeah. He just started the music. That's what you missed.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Big thank you to our therapy partner, Dirty B.
Dirty B.
And now broadcasting from the Churn, that's Dr. Jim, that's Whitney, I'm Nick. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
It is time for some Pod Therapy. So, update, we are recording this one a week in the past. We did a double. And as we are recording this episode in real time, we, my friends, Pod Therapy is now number 3 in the mental health list for good pods in the top 100. Isn't that awesome?
It's awesome.
We did it.
I don't know why we're not number 1.
Jim got his
it's a lack
Christmas
of
wish.
commitment from the listeners. That's what it is. And you know what? I want to shame them. I want to push them. But at this point, they'll just leave.
It's definitely not our fault.
They'll just leave. And you know what? In this game, I'm not going to bluff. I'm just happy you're all still here. Thank you. We will accept third place graciously. Because we will take any winning at all that we can. So when you are hearing this, I will have gone to the Grand Canyon, doing a Boy Scout outing with Grand Canyon. It's going to be really cool. Have you ever
Are we
camped
doing our
there?
urine bed again?
I'm not going to have to piss myself this time because there is a bathroom there. This is civilized
No.
camping.
Wait, you won't pee
This is-
outside?
Oh no, I'll pee outside. The problem is I once pissed all over a man I was camping with.
No. That's not the
Nah,
bet.
Patreon.com/therapy.
That's not the urine
That
bet.
was not the bet.
Oh, how long before I have to drink my own piss?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
That
for
was the
fun or for necessity?
Have to.
Yeah. Okay, have
Necessity.
to, not want to. Want to doesn't even count.
No.
Yeah.
It's
Because
different bet.
we know that you're going to get lost.
So you're going to say you
If
know
you're
that
doing-
you want.
This is mainstream
If you're
camping. I'm at a
As
site.
was the last time.
No, it
You've got
wasn't.
lost.
I got
Hey,
lost. in
I've
local camp.
heard
Yes.
about people getting lost off mainstream camping. They're not
It
that
can
far
happen.
from a road, but then they get stuck.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
don't worry, Whitney. My anxiety stops me from even crossing the road.
Fair.
I'm just standing
It does
right next to my
not-
tent at all times.
Does not stop you from getting lost.
That only happened that one time, and that was at
you-
Zion Park.
You talk about that.
I
It only
love
happened one time
Zion.
out of the millions
At
of
the
times
most
I've been
popular
camping.
national park in America.
Yeah.
And then I got lost in it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, not only that, but people recognized that you were lost.
Yeah, no, for a while. That was pretty scary. Ended up at a whole other bus stop. That was so weird.
You walk to the next bus.
I did. That was the only way I could find my way home. I had to hike out to another
Also,
tram.
he was camping on a bus.
I was also camping on a bus. So I'm going to Grand Canyon, and that'll be cool. It's called the Kaibab Forest or something like that. It's right up in the way to Grand Canyon.
Never.
It's like
never
a
heard of
mile
that.
away from Grand Canyon Village.
All
It's
right.
That whole forested
You're doing
area.
this, that's the South Rim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. So I'm going to do
I've been
that.
through there. It's a great area.
Little Memorial Day weekend action.
All
Anybody
right.
got any plans for Memorial Day? Anybody do anything cool? Some pool
I celebrate
action?
privately.
Yeah. In the way of my ancestors. Yeah. That's fair.
I might go golfing.
Wow. I, for one, am shocked.
Very surprised.
Thank you. Hey, I watched the Masters. I watched the... Is
This
it not
weekend?
the Masters? Not the Masters.
Then it wasn't the Masters.
I watched the thing where people get a coat. Is that also the Masters?
That's
the green coat?
The green coat is the Masters, but that wasn't this weekend.
Yeah.
Nope. I watched the thing where it was a PGA Tour.
Yes, the PGA Championship was.
That
this
was
week.
it.
There you go.
That was it. It felt
Do they get a
important.
jacket for that?
No, they don't. But guess who won?
The guy who got a hole in one. I watched him. He had
No,
a
he
white
didn't
shirt.
win.
Tiger Woods.
Oh no, he had a white shirt and a white hat, and
Yeah.
it said Nike.
I
Yeah,
didn't
was.
see him on this, I don't
he
think.
was the highest amateur.
So
So-
stoned.
So
Yeah.
they allow in the PGA Open, they allow, I think it's 20 PGA members to play. So if you're a golf pro at like a country club,
Okay.
you're a member of the PGA.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
But you're an amateur. You're not a professional golfer,
Right.
You're like this tour. This tournament they allow 20 to play
Of those guys?
So you have to compete to get into that. So that guy
And
got
one of those
in.
guys won?
He didn't win. He just got the highest amateur. He didn't win the tournament.
He beat the scrubs.
Yes.
Okay.
But the big deal, the big story about that was Michael Block was his name, but he made the cut. That was the big thing.
He gets to go pro now?
No.
Oh.
Well, he gets an. Oh, shit, there's
What
a lot
is
to this.
happening?
I don't
There's
know.
a lot to this.
I'm lost. I'm
In a
trying to
tournament.
be into this.
In a tournament, there's 4 days.
Oh, here
okay,
we
you
go.
play Thursday, Friday,
Yeah.
and then there's like 130, 140 guys that will play.
What
Or
sport do they play?
girls.
Okay, golf.
Okay.
But then
They got a
to
goal.
make it
I was
to make it
desperately
to the
hoping we were talking
last
about
2
something else by now.
days. To make it to the last 2 days, you have to make the cut.
Okay.
So they cut it down. They cut the field down to 60.
he made the cut.
So he made the cut. So if you only play Thursday, Friday, you don't get paid.
No.
You don't make any
'Cause
money.
you're bad at golf.
You have to make the cut to make money. So he actually made the cut,
Okay.
which was a huge deal.
That is a big deal.
And then he got paired up with Rory McIlroy on the last day,
You don't have to tell me.
which was really cool.
Don't act
so
like I
then,
don't know that.
And then he hit a hole in one on 15.
Oh, that was the big hole in one everybody's talking
that
about.
was the hole in one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I watched
So-
some of this on TV, and you
It was
should know.
it was a good tournament.
You should know that I did that.
not like that Brooks Koepka won, but whatever.
Yeah,
That's fine.
me neither. That
Good.
guy's
Good.
Hate
Glad we're
that
on the same
guy.
page.
what a
He's the
bastard.
worst.
We all agree.
Yeah.
All right.
For more information about
Moving
not golf, patreon.com/therapy. You can hear all about Whitney's duck escapades.
Duckscapades.
You can also hear Whitney's
DuckTales.
patented duck
DuckTales.
call.
It's her DuckTales. Yes.
Bum, ba-da-da-da.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally gonna make that. I have plenty of video for you.
Whitney's DuckTales. We'll definitely come back to that.
Oh, that's a thing. That's absolutely a thing.
That's awesome.
We need to do the DuckTales theme song lyrics, guys.
Yes.
Life is like a hurricane.
Wait, so
here
for-
in Duckburg. Can we call her house Duckburg?
Duckburg.
Fine with me.
Lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Go ahead.
What are you, so Memorial Day, you're going to be in the Grand Canyon?
Solve a mystery. Yes.
Yes.
That's got to be the most crowded day of the year in the
it's
Grand
gotta be,
Canyon.
right?
He's going to have one of those negative reviews that we read.
Oh yeah, the 1-star review.
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
it? It was
Waiting in
like,
line.
Waiting in
Air
line.
conditioning was terrible. So many bugs. Yeah, too many peoples.
Aw.
And I'm sure it's a thing because I think you have to take the tram around the rim to like get to different destinations. Because I don't think you can just drive. Well, I,
I
guess
have
you
not
can. There's
been to
parking
these
lot.
parts of the Grand Canyon.
No.
I've just been to the part where you drive up and park and then go look.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's very big.
That is a
that's the
starting
one
point.
part.
There's
Wait,
a Grand
the-
Canyon
but where-
visitor
Grand
center.
Canyon?
Very big.
But where are
Grand
people?
Canyon.
Yeah,
Very,
yeah.
like surprisingly big.
Okay.
Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
That one.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But like,
All
why
right.
aren't they going to that one?
That's the one I'm going to.
Where
there's
there's
like
no
a
one?
visitor center, and then you can
No,
like
there's- I
jump
need
on a
to find
tram, and you can go to like other like little points. Because there's like the part where there's like a glass like patio
Overhang?
thing. Yes,
I've
That's
never
on,
seen that.
That's
Oh,
on
that's
a
a North
reservation.
Rim.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so
Oh,
because
right.
I remember that was a big story because I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'll just stop talking. But it was on a reservation, and like they there was a big to do about that as far as like who had the rights to that land
That
or
feels
something,
right.
and it
It's an
was
interesting debate.
got ugly for a minute.
Best memory I have of Grand Canyon is from the movie TV show The Flintstones, where Barney and Fred are walking past a little trickling stream, and it says "Future Sight of the Grand Canyon." Barney says to Fred, "I hear it's really going to be a big deal." That's a good one. Great questions
Excellent.
in today's show. Let's get right to it. First one: social anxiety is keeping me silent. Hi, I started listening to your podcast recently, and I like what I hear. Specifically, I've started with episodes related to social anxiety because that is one of my most significant problem areas. One aspect of my social anxiety that has contributed to feelings of insecurity, loneliness, and lack of friendships is that I'm very afraid to talk to anyone about my interests because I'm afraid I'll be judged by them. I'm a kind of stereotypical nerd. I like sci-fi, anime, Dungeons and Dragons, etc. I know those things are all somewhat more mainstream now, and that there are probably at least some people where I work that have similar interests. However, the thought of telling people my interests and them potentially thinking I'm strange for liking them is so anxiety-inducing that when people ask me what I like to do, I'm always evasive with my answers. Further, I'm hesitant to ask other people what their interests are because I don't want them to ask me the same question. Even telling some coworkers I saw the new Evil Dead movie took me about 10 minutes of trying to work up the nerve to do so. I've been attempting to broaden my interests recently with mixed results, but part of that is so I can have mainstream things I can tell people I like, so that I can hide what things really interest me the most. I feel like if I could get over this, not only would I feel more self-confidence, but I would also meet other people who share my interests. How can I become comfortable sharing my interests with others and stop worrying about being judged? Thanks in advance, Anonymous. Do you guys ever play Dungeons and Dragons?
I have not.
Ever done this?
I'm not.
I did it one time on Ice Cream Social, and we did it on the air.
Okay, just to
So
do
no,
one.
the real answer for me
Have
is
you
no.
done it without getting paid to do it?
No.
Okay.
Good question.
The good
And
news-
also, like, we didn't
Have
do
you?
all the character
No.
stuff that you have to do.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it also- we didn't do any of the like the
I feel
setup
like it's
stuff.
getting so popular.
It looks
sure it
fun.
is.
It seems
Yeah.
like a really growing area.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Stranger Things
Has
really
really
sparked
contributed to
that,
that?
in my
Oh.
opinion.
Yeah. There's even like Twitch people that are like streaming the whole thing and like it's a big but like a lot of these things that the writer's talking about are growing in popularity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sci-fi's
Absolutely.
blowing up, right?
You know, and I think like that whole culture, I think a lot of things are becoming more mainstream now.
Right.
And a lot of, that like it's no longer, because that used to be, I don't know, part of this is kind of that like high school bullying type thing where it was like,
Right.
it was, I need to find somebody that I can make fun of so that I can appear to be more dominant. So,
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons, that's a cool
Nerd.
thing. Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then now we've kind of gotten away from that to where now, like, people will self-describe as a nerd.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, this
Almost
is what I'm
proudly.
into. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's way more widely accepted.
Well, was it in the 80s that there was that movie Nerds, Revenge of the Nerds or
Oh,
whatever?
yeah.
And like, yeah, it was a pejorative, and now it's like a badge of honor. Have any of you ever pretended to like something to fit in? Because the writer talks about like, I'm trying to find mainstream things that I can resonate with, just so I can bring it up at the water
Certainly.
cooler.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, yes.
You know what one of mine was in middle school? Britney Spears. I had never heard of Britney Spears.
The answers to shit. Just, there's never a time that like one episode that I've been like, what the hell? I would not have expected.
Let me tell you about how I discovered Britney Spears. So back in
Tell me.
back in the middle school
I'll tell
era,
you how I discovered her.
There I was in the grocery store.
no
Hit
clue.
me,
And
baby,
here she
one
comes
more
right around
time.
the corner, ran right into me.
So I'm having lunch, in the cafeteria with the other boys, and they would like middle school boy chatter back then was just who's hot. And so they were constantly referencing like MTV and VH1 and like naming all of these like, singers and stuff. And and I just didn't care. Like when I got home from school, I didn't watch like MTV or VH1. I watched like Aladdin on Disney Channel. Like, I was just like, I don't care. So I had no idea, but then I felt really left out. And so they'd be like, "Oh, Jimmy, what do you think? Like, you think that chick's really hot?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And like I had no idea who these women were. So like I actually like waited
doesn't.
watching TV. And like one day after school, I was like watching MTV or whatever it was, VH1, and I was like, I'm gonna wait for like the first like hot chick, and I'm gonna write down that girl's name so I can bring her up. And then Britney Spears, that song,
Hit me, baby.
Oops,
one
I
more
Did It
time.
Again?
that
Or
one.
Or
Oops,
no,
I
Hit
Did-
Me, Baby,
yeah.
one more time.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
of them.
One of those two alternate titles, and that came on, and I thought I'm the first guy to see this. I thought, oh, I'm going to throw this one out there, and I'm going to get in early on this whole Britney Spears thing. These guys aren't even going to know who that is, and I'll like tell them all about this
Not
song.
a smart kid.
No. So I go to school the next day.
This is the first time I've seen this. Therefore, no one else has seen.
I'm like
this.
reciting her
Have you
name.
guys heard of Cyndi Lauper?
I wrote her name on a piece of paper and put it in my pocket. And I was like, while I was talking to the other boys at the table, I was like looking down in my pocket and like,
Britney Spears,
like over and over again. And I was like trying to remember, like, what was her song called about hitting people? And like, I couldn't figure it out. And so like, I brought it up. I'm like, oh guys, there's this really hot chick you got to check out. And they're like, oh, who? Like, oh, her name's like Britney Spears. Probably haven't heard about her. And they're like, yeah, yeah, no shit, dude. Britney Spears is like the best thing that's ever happened. And I'm like, oh, cool, me too. So
Okay, I
yes,
just have to
I have
ask.
done this.
You had MTV and VH1. You had cable.
I don't know if I had both of those. Yeah, no, I did. Yeah,
Because if you had MTV, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
'cause
I hate to brag about it, but we were very well off.
I knew
'Cause
it.
we-
I could
Cable.
tell.
Big screen
our
TV.
cable provider dropped MTV. I remember, so we only had it, like, I remember when MTV first came out, and my sister and I would watch it all the time, and then right around, I think, when Beavis and Butthead came out.
Oh,
Oh, was it like that
yeah.
war against like bad values?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they dropped it completely. So then,
Yeah.
like, the only people who had MTV were my friends who had a satellite dish.
Oh,
Yeah, and so
wow.
I remember
That is crazy.
Yeah, so Ben, their producer Ben, recorded "Hit Me Baby One More Time." And we watched the shit out of it.
I'll bet you did. I'll bet that VHS was very warm. Yeah.
That was...
The plastic was warping. Yeah.
But that was... I was in high school at the time when that came out. But that was... But yeah, that was like even South Park. Like, we didn't... Like, he had to record it. On his satellite dish. And then we would watch South Park that way.
Yeah. So I think it's a common thing to pretend to be into something.
Music especially.
Oh, yeah.
I think people fake interest in music quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then like genres of movies and things like that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the kids these days that buy the shirts that say like Led Zeppelin or or Metallica?
We got my nephew like a box of those shirts for Christmas.
Okay.
All the throwbacks.
But does he know them? Like he listens?
He knew like one or two of them.
Okay.
And then the others always like, this could be worth a checkout.
Yeah.
Because he's 16, 17.
Yep, that's the age.
So I was like, maybe check this one out.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't heard of this one before. Like, you don't know who Bob Dylan is.
Yeah.
Maybe check out Bob Dylan a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're right. I never really thought about that. But like, I used to see kids around all the time, with like a Metallica or Led Zeppelin.
I always like that joke,
They have no idea who that is.
Well, that's the joke is like, it's a very like dickhead thing to walk up to people wearing those shirts, but like name a song.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, there's this bit where like somebody's wearing like a Pulp Fiction shirt. It's like, you probably can't even name a song by the band. And they're like, I don't know. Is it that Wipeout song or whatever?
That's it.
They didn't know what it was. So we've all done this. We've all pretended in order to blend in.
Yeah.
But, what do we say to somebody who's... so first off, Ryder, I think, I really like that you're putting in the effort, right? And you talk about that in the letter. You say, look, I'm trying. Here are the things I'm doing. And like, I'm completely fine with you looking for crossover cultural references just to have a starting point with conversation. Like I told him my story. I've definitely done that. I think that's an appropriate skill to like adapt culture. So you have a touch point. I'm also a big fan of finding your people, right? And so like websites like meetup.com, where like there's real life groups. Like here in Las Vegas, there's this game store called Meepleville, and they do like board games, like wall to wall board games.
No, that sounds awesome.
You would dig it. I think it's a really fun
Where's
place.
that at?
Oh, is that at Town Square?
Midtown. It's like Sahara.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like Sahara and like Rainbow.
Do y'all know if there's any oh my god, I'm blanking on the name of them, like pinball machine, like
Pinball Hall of Fame.
Well, like where you play them?
Yeah. Pinball Hall of Fame is an active pinball.
Or like other arcade
building.
games. Arcade, that's the word I'm trying to say. Like
new ones?
Like like Pac-Man and you know what
like
I mean?
Vintage
Like
ones.
like I think we're in Tennessee. I want to say Nashville, but they had like a whole bar there, and you could play
like a
all the
barcade.
things for free, but you bought drinks. Like that was freaking cool.
Yeah, there's one in Indianapolis too.
Yeah,
do they have one in Vegas?
Yes, there was one called High Scores. And it was a big deal here in Vegas. They finally went out of business. Yeah, so now the barcade scene is pretty much gone.
That's what I feel like. Business opportunity?
Are we starting a business?
So.
Is this our next move?
Yeah.
We'll finally have a venue to play music at.
I know. Seafood sugar cookie.
That's the only way we're going to book a gig. If it's at our own bar. Yeah.
Well, we had to buy a bar to do it, but
Patty's bar
we got it
here.
done.
Doing it this old
No,
school way.
I feel like the author or the writer says that they tried, like you said, they tried to put themselves out there. I wonder what happened then. They're like, it took me 10 minutes. I worked it up. I told them I watched this movie. But then what happened? Did you get like any kind of feedback? Like,
This actually kind of reminds me of something that Dr. Victoria Hartman said when we had her on the show.
Great guest.
So she is the curator.
Get the fuck away from me, Nick.
I believe that's exactly
before that. Before that.
That was off air.
That was off air. Yeah. During the
quote,
show. So she is the curator of the Erotic Heritage Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that she talked about growing up in Germany is just how open they are talking about sex.
Right.
And when starting a new relationship, that's like something you talk about right away. Like, hey, here are the things that I'm into.
Right.
Here are the things that I'm not. Mm-hmm. And then the idea is like, well, that's the practical way to do it. Because like...
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, let's get this out of the way.
Right.
You into this or not? You're not?
I'm very into
cool.
speaking German.
Yeah. So
that's how Jacob spoke.
Doggy and burning books.
So then if not, then you're done. You move on. You know,
Right.
and it's beneficial to you. And I that kind of reminds me of this too. Like when you're meeting people, like, hey, these are the things that I'm into.
Right.
Are you not? You're kind of saving yourself time. And you're like, okay, well, we're not going to hang out. That's cool. peace out.
While cleaning the house, I will be making the mustard gases.
This again. I kind of understand what the writer's talking about feeling insecure about. So I relate to this to some extent. I think that each of us has things that we are truly passionately into that
you're kind of embarrassed about.
Yeah, because if somebody else thought that was silly or like just disapproved or whatever, you'd feel like, shoot, I shouldn't have really told you that. So then we seek these safer middle ground things to be like, oh, did you see this basketball game? Like, yeah, I did. Like, cool. And if they're like, oh, I don't really watch basketball, it's dumb. Like, okay, like you don't care that much.
What's even worse
you didn't wager anything.
Is if you fake something and then they're like, oh my God, you're into that too? And then now you're stuck.
Now you're
I
stuck.
gotta
You
continue
pretended
to
to
fake
be
this
into
shit.
it.
Yeah.
Which is definitely something writer cautionary tale that can go wrong is trying to adopt too much mainstream culture when you're not into it can backfire down the road. I'm a big fan of the writer finding their people though.
Oh, absolutely.
Really great.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think what's in your best interest is just being completely open about the things that you enjoy.
That's exactly right.
And just say like, hey, this is what I'm into and all that.
And the older you get, the more you're going to realize that like if somebody else isn't into that thing, that's fine.
Yeah. And I think
you're just going to care less and less.
And I do think too that hopefully as a society we get more like I don't want to say tolerant because that's not the right word.
I'm against that.
It's
anti-tolerance.
I'm anti-tolerance.
Yeah, somebody needed to.
If anything, we've got too much tolerance.
Yeah, that's right. Tolerance is out of
But more
control.
to the point where like it's like non-judgmental. That's what I'm looking for. Like a non-judgmental
Also against that
thing. Like where it's like
anti-non-judgmental.
okay, so this is the music that you're into. Totally get it. That's cool. I'm not really into that. And then, but it's not saying that like you're bad for being into that music,
right?
Or
it's
having
not why
that
I
hobby.
think you're bad.
But I definitely resonate because I think those who struggle with social anxiety, one of the cognitive distortions they often do is mind reading.
Yes.
You know, and this perception of like, this is how other people will see me or how my hair looks or my shirt, or like if I, carry with me some reference to a cultural icon that I'm into, like I have a cool Jedi lightsaber pen, right? And it's like, oh no, you're just extremely self-conscious thinking I can interpret or I can guess how other people are going to be thinking about me the whole time. And of course, that's not accurate. And like, that's the thing, writer, that in therapy, we would be helping you tackle is learning how to question those guesses, those assumptions, because A, we're almost always wrong. B, they're almost always ridiculously self-critical. And nobody, what's the old quote? You will stop worrying about how other people think of you when you realize how seldom they do.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's just a profound way to think
Well,
about
that's exactly what I was about to bring up. Is there is a self-grandizing
Yes.
component to this.
Right.
Yes.
It's like the fact that
Magnifying.
you think that all these other people are thinking about you all the time, which we've
Right.
all done.
Everyone
Everyone has done this.
Yeah.
But the fact that you think like, oh, people are thinking about me, and you're not thinking that directly. You're thinking like, oh, this
Right.
person is going to think this when I tell them this or whatever. But all of that comes down to this person is thinking about me.
Right.
Just think about how often you think about whether or not a specific
Right.
person is cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, the answer is never.
Right. If a friend or a coworker told you that they enjoyed the new Super Mario movie,
Yeah.
at most you were like, I didn't.
Right.
Or yeah, it was fine. You're not sitting
At
there
most,
qualifying their
like, honestly, at
humanity.
most, you're going to go like, you're going to make a note to be like, I'm either going to listen to this person's movie reviews or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Going for, like, I'm going to listen to their recommendations.
Yeah.
As to whether or not I should go see a movie or I'm not, because based on
You're not
this.
making character judgments.
No.
about them. But I think that thought exercise Jacob's talking about really helps you to right size how other people are thinking of you, to use yourself as a metric. Like the old thing that Nick and I, God, it's been years now, we've talked about this example lots of times. Do you remember the most embarrassing moment of your best friend's life growing up?
Yeah. No.
Like, how often do you think about it?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Never.
Never. If you know it academically, you know. And so that was their most humiliating moment. You're aware of it. You don't care. And so, like, even if you were doing something slightly embarrassing, even if you were a little bit off-putting, even if there was anything that you could, possibly like snag your toe on here socially, people will forget about it within minutes. They don't care.
Yeah, or their judgment's just going to be I don't know if we'd click, so I may not hang out with them, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, not
do-
even be a referendum, just passive.
I think we do, especially if you have social anxiety, you overvalue other people's opinions.
Yes.
And I think I don't want to say that we should live life like, I don't really care. I never care what other people think.
Right.
We do.
You do.
Sure. Yeah. We get dressed every day when we go outside.
Yeah.
Right. We're not walking around naked. Like there's things that we do because we do value other people's opinions.
I would do that if they'd let me. I'd just be naked all the time.
Yeah. In fairness, in Jacob's case, there are laws and several charges pending.
It's the only thing holding him back.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I put clothes on that match each other.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like if my shirt and my pants, like they're gonna at least look like they belong together.
We do as humans care what other humans think.
Of course.
But social anxiety is us, I think, wrong sizing our interpretation of how conspicuous we are to other people. And like Jacob said, how much you feature in their mind. Mm-hmm. At best, you are a passive thought. You are an NPC to them. They are the main character. And so they're going to walk right past you. And I think there's a certain freedom in that known invisibility, writer, because that gives us permission to share a little bit about ourselves. And if other people take interest and volley the conversation back to us, then we keep participating. But that's something we have to practice doing. And I'm really proud of you that you're starting to.
Yes. I just want to make a side note, too, that I feel like a lot of not just young people, but all ages people, don't have a lot of interest. If you were to go on the street and poll people like, hey, what's your interest? Mm-hmm. A shocking number would say something like scrolling X social media or Netflix.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Those are like the two top things. And
right.
I've seen that a lot in my practice and where I see it more with young people right now. That's like the more...
There's not a specific thing.
Yeah, they're just like... And they're almost like, I'm trying to find out who I am because they're young. But that's the number one thing they go to. And I even think into your 30s and 40s, that's almost creepily common now.
Yeah,
that's like...
I would agree.
I was shocked to hear that, but I was like, that is true, though. That is what they're doing in their free time. So the fact that you have... specific hobbies is kind of cool. Like,
it kind of is.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, like when I hear about that, I become curious. Like if I'm talking to somebody like, oh, what do you enjoy? And they're like, oh, I'm really into country. I like to go to, line dance bars like Stoney's. And I'm like, for me, I don't think, I'm not into that. We're not the same guy. I hear that and go, tell me more about that. Like, okay, so I've heard a lot about Stoney's.
I've done that once or twice, and it was never really my thing. Right. What am I missing?
Yeah. That sounds like, so you really do enjoy it, huh? Yeah. I do. Did you figure out how to dance? Right. And most people are at this point.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we have these embedded cultural things. Like, I mean, back in like the 70s and the 80s, like the kind of music you listen to defined the group in many ways. Like, you're one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like into yacht rock. Like, I'm one of the real ones. I'm over here with this tribe. And it's like there was like an entrenched warfare. Now nobody cares because they're all
I'm just
sampling.
not in the mood for the fucking Eagles right now.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to picture the group of people that are only into yacht rock.
I was
this
like,
guy,
what's yacht rock?
Two thumbs.
I know a TheraProducer.
Yeah.
Smitty.
Only
Smitty's into yacht rock.
Oh, yeah.
Smitty likes him
being into yacht rock and only being into yacht rock.
Oh, yeah.
Two different things.
That only is the word that you're missing on here.
Exclusively listen to Kenny Rogers.
I will
and nothing else.
If it is not music that would be played in a rocking style on a yacht,
yes.
I'm not interested.
If it's not at the Catalina wine mixer, I don't give two shits about it.
If I'm not wearing deck shoes with no socks while listening to it, fuck you.
With an open collar button up.
Yeah.
Yes, linen only. Writer, this is something a lot of people relate to. I'm glad you're writing about it. I'm glad you're thinking about it. Right-sizing those social anxieties by remembering that we do not feature as heavily in other people's minds as we imagine that we do. Trying on some mainstream stuff just to get conversation going, being brave, starting those water cooler chats, and coming back to those original skills. If you haven't picked up the book, Dale Carnegie's How to Influence People and Win Friends, I probably got that title reversed.
Friends and Influence.
There it is. That is a great
and
book.
learn book titles.
Those ones. It's a great book just reviewing the basics of how to uphold a conversation, mirroring other people, finding things that they're sharing that you can find interest in. It just really is a blueprint for a lot of great conversational skills. Visit that book if you haven't before. I think it's a short one. It's really to the point. I think you'll really benefit from that too.
I was going to say too, this does kind of skirt around something that I think is a big deal, and that is self-acceptance.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, once you kind of figure out these are the things that I like, and I'm okay with liking these things, and I'm okay with who I am, I think you're going to find a lot more happiness.
Yeah. To be able to have the confidence, I'll start. I enjoyed the Star Wars prequels.
Oh,
Yeah, those were way better.
I thought for sure he was going to say golf.
Gee, what
I enjoy
a
golf.
outrageous cut. Those were way fucking better than the originals. It's not even close. The lightsaber fight alone in Revenge of the Sith outdid everything they had ever produced before or since. The newest
Nick
ones
is
are garbage.
immediately uncomfortable that he has said this now that Jim is
We're
chiming
in
in.
alignment, baby.
Nick is not okay with the chime in.
Let's hold hands for the rest of the show because
I'm
we're
not
on the
okay.
same page, my man. Same sentence. Same word.
Let's do our commercials.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about whether it's normal for a man to want to raise a
said they
family.
were fine.
You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Walking it back. Walking it on back.
Actually, Star Trek's a lot better.
Just cut that part.
Today's episode is brought to you by Smitty Yacht Rock Scoop, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Mason Miller, Tess Miller, Dirty B, Byler T, Paris, Team Monaco, and Oscar Swan Roast. Would you like to sponsor the show? Become a therapy producer. Patreon.com/therapy. All right. I didn't have any trivia from any listeners.
Okay.
So I had to do
Sleep
this.
at the wheel,
had to do this
people.
old school, and it's
we have
also
to do shit again.
it's also possible that it's
inaccurate.
well, no, that there's some that I haven't gotten to in the emails.
That feels right.
So if you do send in trivia, put trivia in the subject.
Oh,
line.
yeah.
And that's easy to find.
PodTherapyGuys@gmail.com.
Yes. All right. So I
Make sure
came
that
up
you
with this
black out the answers that we have to highlight them to see them.
one. Jeopardy rules, or not Jeopardy.
Price is Right rules.
Price is Right rules.
He knew.
Highest
Closest
closest without going over.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We're going number of members in a band.
Oh shit! Come
Lifetime.
on. Are you gonna pick?
Lifetime.
Okay.
Oh wait.
So, like, how many people
So-
have
Don't
played
understand.
bass for Aerosmith?
How many people?
They each count.
Oh
yes.
damn.
How many people have been in and out of the band?
Yeah. So, like, there might be.
So you're going to give us a band name?
I'm going to give you a band.
So it might be a
Okay.
5-piece band, but how many people have made up this 5-piece
Bob
band over the
Dylan.
years?
Exactly. Okay. First one.
If you could tell me
Do
how
we
many people
know-
have been in Dylan's band over the years, I'd be very
that's a-
impressed.
Do we know? Are you going to tell us like the number of like spots? You know,
No.
like
Oh, you
like
just-
there's 5 people in
all
this band.
coming
How
off
many
of
people?
memory.
Okay.
Because sometimes it'd be 4, sometimes it may be 5.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends.
Okay.
Yeah. Might be a duo.
So they wouldn't fill in a spot.
So like
if they
no,
left?
because the Eagles, like they started out with 4, then they had
Uh-huh.
5, then they had
That-
4 again, and
We're gonna get
Henley, is that
absolutely
the guy?
Did you
He
have-
is.
Ooh,
There you
he
go.
lives in
He is,
Dallas,
he
I
is.
think.
Then you have the
Yeah.
Grateful
He
Dead.
was.
They've never
Yeah,
had
he was
less
from
than
Texas.
87 members.
all right, here we go.
stage at
First
the
one,
same time.
Okay.
Fleetwood Mac.
Good Lord.
I actually like that band, and I couldn't tell you. Okay.
Dreams, baby, dreams.
So I need Jacob to answer first, just so I even have a ballpark figure to even reasonably think about.
All right,
Because
4.
I cannot name a person in Fleetwood Mac or even 2 of their songs.
Then I'll just go with 4. If I
Seems
answer
solid.
first.
That's- yeah.
No, I'll guess. I'll guess 13.
Oh, I was gonna guess 15.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, you still
I'm
can.
I am. I'm gonna
Take
guess
it 15?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. How can there be that many people?
They've been around a while.
Because of
Been
the
around for a while.
turnover?
Yeah.
Because people just
Yeah.
leave the band?
Uh-huh.
Man, that's crazy.
I thought
At
that
what
might be too
point
much, but I
have
feel
you
a little better.
replaced too many members of the band that the band no longer is the band?
As long as
Does there have to be one surviving member?
Nope.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
Ask
That is
Skinner.
weird.
Yeah,
That's
The last original
super weird.
member of Leonard Skinner died like a couple of months ago.
And it still
Wow.
exists?
It's still Leonard Skinner, yeah.
Oh, no.
And he hadn't
That's
been
weird.
touring with him in a long time.
This is the ship of Theseus. Oh, I can't do this.
What
It's
is
exactly like that.
Oh, God.
Gotta Google that.
I'll
shit
take
up.
10.
I mean,
That's a round number.
The
got 10?
the other common one is like, this is Houdini's wand. You know, obviously I had to replace this end, you know, because it got messed up in a fire,
Right.
and you know, this end, you know, a cat chewed on it, so I replaced this
Yeah.
end over here, and then the middle of it, you know,
Yeah.
obviously I had to replace that.
Yeah.
But other than that, this is Houdini's wand.
Yeah,
wand.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel good about the logic
Okay.
of this.
So you said 10?
I'll do 10.
Okay. and you
10,
had
13, and 15.
Yeah.
Okay. It is 18.
All right.
Wait,
Whitney
you
wins.
already
Whitney.
saw it. Okay,
Yeah,
that's right. You came
Well,
up with
I-
that.
I
I forgot.
yeah.
Yeah.
18 people have
Yay!
played in
18
that
people.
band.
Look at me.
All right.
That is weird.
Next question.
Man, I hope it ends up being an easy one like MC Hammer or something like that. It's clearly
You don't know how many people played with MC Hammer.
I really don't.
There was a
I
band.
don't. Yeah, he was the MC. So yeah.
There were like 8 guys that would just take it to the bridge.
Yeah. Is it normal for a man to want to raise a family?
I really hope that
Yes,
Parliament Funkadelic is not on this.
Oh, no, it is not.
375 million people.
Yeah. Everyone on
The
Earth.
population of
Final
the
answers.
United States of America plus 7.
All having album
I
credits.
mean, just how many people in this room have not played with
yeah,
Parliament
I've been in a few times. I just stopped answering the
I was
calls.
on tour with him for 6 months as Bootsy Collins. Nobody knew what Bootsy Collins looked like. It was just me. They were like,
It was
that's
always me.
Bootsy Collins.
Yeah. We all take, it's like Kaiser Soze, right?
Yeah.
Everybody takes turns being him. Hey, y'all, I'm a 25-year-old woman and have been talking to my husband about having kids. We've talked about kids since we were dating and have always been on the same page. But lately, whenever we've talked about our hypothetical future family, he seems very pessimistic. I asked him again if he wants kids, and he said that he doesn't really want kids, but he wouldn't hate them if we had some.
That's good.
He said that men don't get a desire to have children. So if I feel like having kids, that's fine. Is that true? I only want to have kids if he's all in, and I don't talk to men as much about their desire to have children, so I'm not sure if that's even common. I don't want to rush him or pressure him, but it would be nice to know if he does actually want kids or not. My doctor said that it may take up to 2 years for me to get pregnant once I go off my birth control, so it'd be nice to know if I need to go off sooner rather than later. I also would want to get a different job because my current job only offers 6 weeks unpaid maternity leave, and I'd like a position where I can work remotely. I don't know what to do or where to go from here. Help, Anonymous.
First off, 6 weeks unpaid maternity leave.
What a gift.
Yeah. Thanks.
God damn it, America.
You're welcome.
We will cut $1 trillion check on bombs tomorrow.
America's
wow.
such-
Unless
What
they're
a
maternity
shit
leave
show.
bombs.
Yeah, no. Goodness gracious.
That's frustrating.
Wow.
So this is a tough question.
Imagine it being listed as a perk for anything to have unpaid time
We
off.
won't fire
We'll
you.
allow you to
That's
not
such
come
a
to work,
weird
but we're not going to
phrasing
pay you.
of a perk.
If you have a child, we won't fire you for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not 2 months. Your ass is grass 2 months.
Yeah.
Month and a half.
Also, like, what is the percentage? Because it's higher than 0. What is the percentage of people that take their unpaid maternity leave and are then fired basically
I
like
was
while
just
they're
gonna
gone?
say that.
Of
Or get
course.
replaced.
They get
yeah.
replaced while they're gone, then they come back and they don't have a job anymore.
There's a whole Reddit thing about that.
I mean,
I
that
was
has to
reading the other
happen
day.
an upsetting amount of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super common. Goodness gracious.
I mean, I'm not a man, so let me just start by saying that. But surprise!
The jig is up.
All right, y'all know now. But I think that is kind of wild to say men in general just don't want to have a family or don't want kids. That's bizarre. I think.
I think that's incorrect.
Yeah.
I think that
That's-
statement is incorrect.
Yeah, it's very overreaching. I think when I was really young, I used to kind of have that thought too. And growing older, getting to know more men, other couples, things like that, it's just so incorrect. It's
Yeah.
just,
Like, I have never wanted children, but I've always known that I've never wanted children. There are plenty of my male friends that I know that absolutely want children.
want a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that like have had children. They're like, yes, this is what, like, they actively pursued this.
Yeah.
This is what they wanted.
I'm in the exact same boat, and I always felt like I was a minority in that sense.
That's
that
what
you
I
didn't
was
want
gonna
children.
ask you guys.
No,
like,
I think that is the case.
Yeah.
I agree
like
with
how
that.
many of your friends is what I was wondering. Have y'all heard like that wanted a family and wanted kids?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Most.
Like, I would say most.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
of them just kind of had that expectation, like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to have kids now, and we're going to have a family. And
Yeah.
I think that's, I would agree.
So let's just start with that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
just think that's
super
factually
inaccurate.
incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that men often. So, okay, I think if you stacked together 100 men, 100 women at different ages,
First of all, they'd hate it.
They would dislike that very much.
Stacking.
But
Quit stacking me.
It's very tough for the bottom person. You know?
is?
Like not
A lot of pressure.
3, 4
Honestly,
in,
like
you're
the
okay.
bottom quarter, you're not
that's-
in great
it's
shape.
Just not easy.
Yeah.
And it's like Jenga, it all falls. It's just a bloody mess. So, okay, if you take 100 of each, just taking just those two genders, we realize things get much more interesting than that. But I think that the writer is asking a kind of binary question, so we're answering it in the spirit that gives them the best advice they are asking for, right? That's what we're here to do. So if you take just men and women and you were to ask each, like at 25 years old, about the age that the writer is, how many of you are interested in children versus not, I think you will statistically find that more women are saying affirmatively, yeah, I'm interested in that, and that seems like a plausible choice of mine pretty soon.
Are you? Let me clarify the question you're asking. Are you asking 25-year-old people? Are you interested in having children immediately, or are you interested in having children ever in your life?
Like presently, like is it something you see yourself doing?
Okay,
because I think that what I think I've seen with a lot of men is they might be open to it, but they're still exploring that about themselves.
Right.
Like it's not an immediate identity connector.
So the answer, if you asked the question and my answer was maybe someday,
right?
Yes.
Where would you classify that answer?
Somewhere in the middle, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So like I guess like just taking my own kids for example, and I think a lot of people relate to this. Like my son, whenever
my kids,
please. Whenever he was really little, if you like gave him a baby doll or something like that, he wouldn't nurture it. He was like just slapping shit with sticks and being, everything was a sword and like he's like being an adventurer, right? He wanted to be a firefighter. My little girl, when she was like 2,
I don't think your kid knows what firefighters do.
I don't think he does. You don't slap things with swords.
No, if I'm a firefighter, where's my sword?
Duh.
Some BS.
Let him dream. Let the boy
Kid's
be
an
who he
idiot.
wants
Hey,
to be.
future firefighters have swords. That's what I'm
right.
hearing.
Sometimes you get a sword. But I remember my
Jim's
daughter,
kid is dumb.
as soon as she was old enough to like hold a doll, she was mothering it.
Right.
And it's like, okay. And I remember thinking at the time, like, we didn't intentionally try to gender stereotype either of our kids. We were just kind of just playing with children, right? And like, I'm a very nurturing, like affectionate guy. So like nothing about me would have like made my son just not interested in having kids. So like, I just found that really interesting. I think like, again, take people that are 25 years old. I think you're going to find more women that just openly identify as maternal and actively interested in children right now. Whereas I think a significant amount of those men at that age will say, I don't know, I haven't like closed the door on that or anything, but like it's not on my agenda. Whereas I think women are already starting to think about that. So I do think that there is a disconnect there, but I agree with everybody, in the conclusions. Obviously I chose to have children and I wanted children and it's a major part of my identity. And it was, I was a teacher before I had children. I obviously liked, that role and I found myself paternal with my students, even when I was a very young man. I had my first child at 24 years old. So like I wanted to be a parent even then, and we were trying for a child. It wasn't an accident. So the obvious answer to you,
this would have been a really weird time to find out that all of Jim's kids were accidents.
Yeah, I never wanted kids.
Jim just announces that.
They were strays and they just walked into the house. So you ask these interesting questions of like, okay, just to calibrate first, are all men, yes or no on this? How often is it? I do think it at your partner's age group, I don't think it's uncommon to find that age demographic isn't ready to think about parenthood. But this question you're saying of like, so family planning, I'm 25. If we get off birth control, it could take up to 2 years. Mm-hmm. What is the timeline on this whenever my partner is like unsure? And do I want to, conceive a child with a partner who's like not all in? And these are really big and difficult questions because I think like on one hand, I remember whenever my partner and I were talking about having children, and at the time I was like, I'm pro having children, but I'm scared. I don't feel financially ready. And like, if you just give me this many years, let me finish these milestones, let me get these things accomplished. And my partner at the time was like, look, I don't want to waste my whole life waiting to have my life. And like, we're going to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're going to build our readiness and become parents. You're not going to be a parent and then have kids. You're going to have kids and become a parent through that process. And like, just kind of like doing it as you go. I think that that's true. So in many ways, I don't want you to feel like you have to wait. And I don't want your partner to feel like they're going to achieve some level of paternal readiness. And now I'm ready to be a father. You become a father. That's what happens. But at the same time, I think that's a fear that a lot of women have of like, I don't want to start this permanent life choice with somebody who might just bail.
Although I think there is a difference, though, too, between being ready versus wanting.
That's a good point.
You know, because, and I think that's probably, you know, something that you probably want to, writer, you want to talk about, you know, is this something about like, yeah, I'm not really sure I'm ready for this, because in that case, I definitely agree with you, Jim.
Right.
If you say, I'm going to wait until I'm ready, you're never going to have kids.
No.
Doesn't
Because
exist. Yeah.
life just never works out that way.
Right.
Now, if on the other hand, he's saying, yeah, I'm not really sure I want kids, or I
Right.
really don't want kids.
That's different.
That's a different thing. And it's almost kind of like a 1 to 5 scale, where like 1 is absolutely not, 5 is absolutely yes,
Right.
3 is 100% in the middle, you know, and then you've kind of got those middle ground, like kind of figuring out where on that scale you are. Because from the writer's perspective, if he's a 1 or a 2, and you, the writer, are a 4 or 5,
Right.
that's problematic. And it's scary.
Yes.
Too, you know, because it's like, oh, do I really want to move forward with this? Because what if neither of us change?
Right.
You know, because there's no takesies backsies. You know,
Right.
it's like you have this kid, you got a kid now.
Well, and Whitney, coming back to something you said, I think in the last episode we recorded, time being this one really valuable resource that you cannot get back. And so we need to have these conversations, because if you're wasting a decade of my life that I could have made other choices, I have a right to know that.
Yeah. I was going to point out as well, her saying that he seems very pessimistic. I would want to know, this kind of picks up on what Nick was saying. What do you mean by pessimistic? Is he saying like, oh, the world's in this horrible state and I don't want to bring kids into it? Or is he like, I don't think I want to be a dad, or I'll be a bad father, or I'm not going to be prepared? Or what is he pessimistic about?
Mm-hmm.
So talking to the writer, I would try and just explore that more. Maybe you have and just didn't include it, because I know these tend to be, you know, condensed, but trying to talk to your partner about that. What is making them feel pessimistic? Like they're saying, it'd be fine if I had them. What does that mean? You know?
Right.
So yeah.
I wouldn't hate them if we had
Or
them.
yeah, I wouldn't hate them if we had them.
Which honestly, I realize it's a very inarticulate way to speak, but like I think back to 25, and I think a lot of men would say, look, if all of a sudden you come to me and say that you're pregnant, it's going to work out.
Yeah, we'll figure
Like,
it out.
that's what I'm telling you. But if you come to me and say, I feel ready for this, are you cool with this? A lot of men at that age will be like, well, no. You know, like, I don't want to proactively go for that. Like, that's not what I want. But if it happens, I'm cool. That is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of men at that age would have that position and sort of, and I think that is perfectly clear to me of like, yeah, sure. You know, you're neutral.
I have a few male clients right now who are in that 25 to 29 range. And I hear that pretty often when we talk about families. They aren't even dating anyone, but it's like, you know, that's just something we touch on. And most of them will say like, yeah, I'm open to it. You know, they aren't like, oh, I want that family, but they are open to that idea. I think if they found a person they really cared about and felt confident in starting that life venture challenge with, they'd be like, yeah, this is good. This is great.
I think in my experience, and again, not to paint with too broad of a brush, I have seen it more often to be the case that women will be looking for a partner that will facilitate like the future they desire. Like, I want a family, like here's how I imagine my life. This guy seems like a good candidate. Let's go in that direction. Men, at least from my limited observational view here, have often been of the other type where it's like, well, let me find the right woman first, and then we'll figure out what she wants to do, and then we'll sort out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not to say that they don't have opinions, but it's that they say, well, it starts with the right girl, and then from there, we'll sort out the rest.
Yeah.
Because if she says, hey, I definitely don't want kids, like, okay, well, I'm very malleable on this.
Yeah.
Some men. But I've also had
some.
men that come to me and say, I'm presently single. I'm considering hiring a surrogate and having a child.
Yeah.
And like figuring out the whole life partner thing later because I don't want to, wait too long and like, whatever. It fits my life plan to have a child now. I've seen that happen. So
yeah. I have friends that are
different
guys that are like, they're like, I don't want to be an old dad. Like that's literally some of my good friends from high school.
Yep.
One of them says that.
Really speaks to that eternal thing.
Yeah.
But Ryder, I'm glad that you're exploring this for yourself. I mean, obviously we're a big fan of talking it out in therapy. this is a great topic to discuss with a therapist in couples work, to say, hey, we're here to sort this out. And I have couples that I'm working with right now that we're having this exact conversation. And I like to start with things like values inventory, just getting each person talking about what's important to them and what, how they imagine their best life. And then starting to find those commonalities to say, hey, I want each of you to feel heard. I don't want anybody to feel forced. Can we get to a place where we feel congruent?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something else, but it's gone. So.
Well, I also wouldn't. I don't think it's bad for you to continue to have this conversation,
right,
and not do it in a way where you're kind of pressuring your partner, but to just be real and just be honest with it and just say like, hey, this I kind of need to know where we're at.
Right.
So that is what I was going to say, what you're saying, Jim and Nick. Basically, it takes the pressure off sometimes if you want to go see a therapist. It doesn't have to be long-term therapy. I just want to throw that out there. Like, you can say, hey, we just want to sort through this over a few sessions or whatever. You know, it doesn't have to be like ongoing therapy, but this is our goal. This is what we're trying to work through. And it takes the pressure off you feeling like you need to bring it up and ask them and pressure it. It's like, oh, our therapist is asking us these things.
That's exactly. I have a couple right now working on this. That is exactly my role. And the couple I've said, why aren't you talking about this at home? It's like, well, I don't want to burden them. I don't want them to feel cornered. I have told them this matters to me. They've agreed to step forward and have this conversation here. Mm-hmm. But that way, the other 6.5 days of our lives, we're not waiting, wondering if this topic's going to be brought up. Jim will bring it up.
Yeah.
And I do. And then it's like, okay, and I'm asking these very direct questions. And, I think that really helps, which, by the way, this could, in this couple's case that I'm helping right now, it helped that I was a male therapist because I was able to speak directly to the dad, or could be dad, and, address in kind of language that he resonated with, what his concerns might be, and navigate that. And I think also it was helpful for him, and I think the wife did this on purpose, picked me because I literally wrote a book about being a father, so I'm obviously on Team Dad.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, hey, let's just let this guy meet a role model who's like pretty enthusiastically a dad, and it's come out in therapy, right? Because I'm like, I'm going camping with my kids. And it's great. And it's like, okay, like obviously I'm a cheerleader for that. But.
I know where they stand.
Fatherly Advice is available
Dad
on
advice.
Amazon.
Dad advice book.
Dad advice.
Dad
advice only for dads.
Still not it. Dad
no one else read this book.
Anybody can read it. Honestly, anybody.
Don't buy it.
Anybody at all. Doesn't even have to do a lot with being
Feel free to read it. Don't buy it.
Dadvicebook.com.
MentalFitPersonalTraining.com.
Also that one. PodTherapyBaitShop.com.
I'm just going to...
SeafoodSugarCookie.com. Oh, shit, we need to buy that URL.
We do.
No, delete that. Fucking Malia's going to buy it again. God damn it. She buys all of our URLs. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about codependency. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Smitty, Scoop, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Mason Miller, Tess Miller, Dirty B, Byler, T, Paris, Team Monaco, and Oscar Swan Rose. And if you too want to become a therapy producer, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up, and you get to hear your name at times like this.
Yes.
All right, next band. Closest without going over.
All right.
Whitesnake.
Oh my God.
Okay, 100% of the knowledge I have of Whitesnake is a video about a car slowly moving and people on the hood. Maybe a girl on the hood.
Most definitely a girl. On the
Yep.
hood.
Okay. And that
possibly
all of
Tawny Katane.
Also, I think that memory is slightly spliced with a scene from Pee Wee Herman's Big Top Adventure, in which he goes through a Hollywood studio parking lot and there's like a voiceover going on for that scene and he's riding his bike or something. And that completes my knowledge of Whitesnake.
Do you have a guess or not?
I'm going to go with 5. That feels like a solid number.
I was going to guess like 35.
Oh, good. Jacob's pulling up a photo of girl
Tawny
walking
Katane.
Harvard.
Yeah.
It's Tawny Katane on the car.
Is she famous?
For being in that video.
Yep. Oh, good for her.
Look
That
at those
was,
lips on the bottom.
I hope it all works.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a big deal.
I'm going to go with 30.
30.
I'm going for it.
She's going grande.
I mean, Whitesnake. I couldn't even tell you.
And
something.
I
answered
5.
first on the last one.
We are way too young for this game.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I
you're
just want to
answering
point
30.
this out.
You're at 5?
Yeah.
And you're at 30.
These two fogies are picking stuff
I'm going to go
I've
ahead and
never
take
even listened to.
6.
Damn it.
Okay.
You bitch.
So I'm going to take between 6 and 29.
He's got a nice license on
I hope
this.
it's 42.
Yeah.
It's 41.
Oh!
Whoa!
I am killing this game.
I
for two.
am shocked by that.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I know two people that were in Whitesnake, and I am still shocked by that. One of the guitar players from Whitesnake has had Thanksgiving dinner at my house multiple times, and I'm still surprised by this.
Which one of the 42?
Yeah, I know. That's really
21,
not that big of a
41.
deal.
Well, I guess I'm glad I didn't do 42.
It's not
It'd
even
have
a
been
flex,
over.
Jacob. Like,
No.
I know one of the members of Whitesnake.
Yeah,
no
so does
shit.
everybody.
Yeah, my dad is too. This was my mailman.
Oh my
I had to
god!
get his
Shocking
Whitesnake
number.
albums for Christmas.
Even
my
my
grandma
high
sends
number,
it to me.
35, wouldn't have been over. Oh my gosh!
All right.
Like the fact that David Coverdale has had that many people in his band, because I think
my
I think he's been in for all of it. Like, unlike Skinner and people like that we were talking about earlier, I think David Coverdale has been in every iteration of Whitesnake.
That bothers me.
He's the singer.
That you
That
could
bothers-
ever have all the members
78
gone.
to 80, 94 to 97, and then 2003 to present.
Oh, so he was not.
Yeah.
He's taking breaks.
Okay.
So he's taking some breaks.
That's
yeah.
so weird that a band could replace all of its members and be called that band still.
Yeah,
That really
that's kinda weird
bothers
to
me.
me.
Well, that's why they do the thing with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that is actually kind of controversial.
Oh.
And that is, if your
don't
band gets
induct the
inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the original lineup
Is it?
is the group that is actually inducted.
Oh, that
So, there are
honestly, I'm
exceptions
good
to
with
it,
that.
but those exceptions have to be like fought for.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, a person
I
has to
would've
have
never
such an
thought about
impact
that.
on
Oh,
that
yeah.
band.
Jacob, you may have been right, though, because the band, it looks like, took breaks.
Yeah.
So I think
Oh,
David
about Coverdale being in
yeah,
all of it.
I think he
Oh,
was.
no,
in the whole
they
thing.
certainly took breaks. There
Yeah,
were times that Whitesnake was not active.
Yeah.
Can you
So it looks like
replace
he
the
was-
Jackson 5 and still
How many
have
Jacksons?
I mean, it depends. All right, what's their last name? And are they willing to legally
One
change it?
qualification. The last.
Are you willing to legally change your name to Jackson?
I mean, for the money, I would.
Jackson 5's a lot easier to do. Jackson's a common name. Tangeman
Yeah.
5.
Tangeman 5.
Yeah.
Try to find
yeah,
5
exactly.
Outside of
Jacksons
Iowa,
Yeah.
with
good
the
luck.
musical
Yeah,
powers
exactly.
to accomplish this. All right. Good
Okay.
trivia. So Whitney's
That was
winning.
good. Woo!
right.
Yeah, Whitney
Killing
wins.
it.
Not winning, has won.
Is done.
Past tense has won.
It's fought. Great. Codependency, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hi, smiley face emoji. I'm trying to be happy for my friend, but she is very codependent in her relationship, and I view that as problematic and unhealthy. It's textbook codependency. Her world revolves around him. She has abandoned all her friendships, done everything he wants, provides most the income. He uses her car. It's never about her needs and desires, only about his. She has huge self-esteem issues. She has lost all sense of self. She fears being alone, and I often find him pretty rude to her. But she says that she's happy, and this is all she's ever wanted. She sees him as perfect, and this life they created as perfect, and everything she has ever wanted. It's difficult for me to stay in a friendship with her because of all this, but I'm wondering, is it possible for someone to be happy in a codependent relationship? Like, while it is unhealthy, can it be healthy if it is the dynamic that the person wants and finds ideal? Can she be happy in this and live happily ever after? I want to be happy for her and not resentful. And if a codependent relationship is just a different type of relationship that isn't for everyone but can work for some people, I feel like I can start trying to be happy for her and accepting the new her. Or is it always a bad thing? My perspective is we all have some mixture of unhealthy in our lives simply because we are always in the process of growth and improvement and never imperfection. As long as we are on the scale of unhealthy that is an acceptable amount of damaging, then it's fine. For instance, you can drink some alcohol, but there's a point where it really does interfere with your life. You can eat bad food, etc. Thanks for your insight, Anonymous.
All right. Well, I think first off, we actually had a question kind of similar to this several months ago, except in that particular situation, it sounded like there was maybe not physical abuse going on, but there was some mental and verbal abuse.
Oh, yeah, I
and
remember that.
the friend was writing in and saying like, hey,
concerned.
what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we kind of left the idea with, you know, like you should, you know, if you voice your concern, you need to do it kind of with kid gloves because you want to maintain that relationship with her.
Right.
Because eventually she's going to get into this situation where she realizes this is the problem and she's going to need a friend.
Right.
And if you destroy that bridge, then now it kind of leaves her feeling more stuck in that relationship that she can't actually leave it.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's not necessarily the case here. And really what we're kind of talking about is just, I mean, it sounds like there may be some issues with him being rude to her, as was mentioned, but sounds like this is really just more about, like, can someone really be in a relationship like this and genuinely be happy, or is she just lying?
Right.
To try, kind of.
Or is that part of the trait of
delusion?
codependency?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, like, this actually kind of reminds me of a friend of mine that I have, where it's him, his wife, and their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk about Jim right.
I'm right here. Yeah, I'm right here.
And they do everything together.
Uh-huh.
The three of them.
I don't trust them.
I don't either.
I don't trust them.
I don't like it.
No, not at all.
It just freaks me out.
You're too happy.
It freaks me out.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It really bothers me.
Okay.
I gotta hear this.
You're a
does
happy
this bother
family. Go
you?
fuck
Yeah.
yourself.
No, I
Yeah.
do. I
I'm not
don't like
buying it.
I don't like
Because
it.
it's like a car sticker
Projection.
decal
Yep.
family. Like,
Yeah.
why does this
Yeah.
upset you?
Because there's no independence outside of each other.
Oh, okay.
They're so enmeshed, like they're
Yeah.
just so close that everything they do, it's the three of them doing
it's
everything
always gotta
all
be
together.
All three of them. Okay.
And so, like, I kind of struggle with that sometimes because I feel myself starting to get judgmental
Okay.
and just being like, oh, I don't like that. That kind of bothers me. But then I'm like, okay, well, it seems to be working for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't appear to be unhappy. He appears to be
Right.
very happy.
Right.
And so is this about me
Right.
that it's bothering me, or is this
Yes.
about him?
Yeah.
Shut up, Whitney.
I'm like, yes. Tell me more.
It is all
I'll
about
charge you today after.
That's
I'm just
right.
kidding.
Invoice.
But yeah, so I do think that I do think people can be happy like that. I don't think it's necessarily just always delusional or part of the codependency.
So this is a good question because I think a lot of times we're starting to scrutinize everything by the standard of what's healthy.
Yeah.
Right. And this is causing a lot of people on Instagram to be like, oh, well, that person's this or that. Here's the name calling.
Yeah.
Or this relationship everybody feels like it's okay right now to qualify everybody else by some invisible mental health standard. And I think it really invites us to answer a question like this, to speak to this idea of, like, is it that black and white?
Yeah.
Whitney says yes. Next.
The
Please
end.
continue.
I'm like, yes, and codependency is kind of an interesting topic right now. I've been speaking with a few of my clients about this, and I'm surprised how many say they haven't heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, really? But what are your thoughts on this maybe more personal theory that if you're in a relationship, there's always a little bit, almost always, I shouldn't say always, almost always a little bit of codependency there, and it's not unhealthy to be.
I would probably alter the phrase a little bit because, like, for me, okay, so just in general, really quick, codependency is not a diagnosis.
Yeah.
We don't have that in the DSM. It's
Yeah,
not
let's
a mental
clarify
illness.
this real quick.
Yep. At best, it's a loose way to describe relationship tendency or style.
Yeah.
If we want to be more scientific about it, I think we would go to, like, Bowlby's attachment styles.
I was just going to mention the attachment style.
Right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we probably wouldn't, use the word codependency.
Yeah.
So for me, like, that question of, do you think there's always a little touch of codependency? I would probably pivot for me and use the word interdependency. So
Okay.
I'd say, like, a interdependent relationship is like mutually dependent in that sense. And, like, I do need you. I am happiest with you. I would be quite unhappy without you. I look to you to measure some of my emotions, and, like, how you feel about me and how you're feeling about the world greatly influences, my internal emotional ecosystem. None of those are unhealthy things.
Yeah.
Like, much of that is a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
And humans are that kind of animal, right?
Yeah.
So I would be fine with that concept.
I'll look into that more later. And
Yeah.
decide if I want to change my mind.
But you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
say probably yes?
But
a
little
little bit.
but yeah, kind of what Nick was saying too. If my first question was, what do you mean by unhealthy? This is unhealthy. And you kind of point out a few examples like, oh, he uses this. And they say it's never about her needs and desires. Let me just say really quick, you never know. This is something I've learned grown old. You never know what other people are getting out of their relationships that we sit back and judge and say, oh, I could never deal with like this personality trait or that action that this couple over here is doing. But oh my gosh, how do they even stand each other or something? But the reality is you have no idea what those other couples are getting out of their relationship.
I saw a friend of mine this week, and he's married, has 3 kids.
Again, I'm right here.
I said friend. So I saw a friend of mine earlier this week. When you walk into the barn door and it hits you in the face, you don't get to be mad at the barn door.
Oh, the cut is all the way. That came out the other side.
Fucking walk right into it, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
But I remember when he first started dating his wife, and I was like, I don't see this at all. His wife is a perfectly lovely person.
Yep.
But like the two of them together, I was like, I don't see this in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. And like, it's been great.
Yeah, they're like making it and loving it.
They're
and
great. Yeah.
Yes, I've said that too about couples. I'm like, they are not gonna, and there they are. Like, decades later, you're like, all right, cool.
You never know.
You never know. So I think that although I may not personally choose to live the life that your friend's living, and it sounds like you wouldn't either, she finds some value in it as far as you know, and all you can do is take her at face value and remind her that you're there for her just as a friend unconditionally. You know, that's, in my opinion, kind of what friendship is. And I say, you know, other than physical harm or something like that, essentially being a friend to somebody, then if she does go through a moment where she realizes, wow, maybe she does decide I don't want them walking all over me, or I've started to set more boundaries, they know that you're there for them.
Right.
And when that does happen, if that does happen, I probably wouldn't jump right in with, oh, I've been thinking this for years.
Told you. Yeah.
Not like Jacob would do.
Yes, and that is that's the reason why.
Because then when they get back together, you've said it.
Exactly.
Yep.
So true.
You've said it now. Because they're going to get back together.
Nick has experience.
I do. That's, yeah. When your friend.
Oh my gosh.
When they tell you that they're getting divorced, you got to make sure.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that this is going through before you start bad mouthing the ex.
Just go, oh wow.
Yeah.
I'd say give it at least 6 to 8 months.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I took the liberty of grabbing you some lawyer's cards. I've just kept these in my glove box.
Yes.
Maybe you
Damn.
You don't say, oh, thank God.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for
They were
you.
an asshole.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. And Whitney's right. You never know what relationships are working for people. And also, this relationship's working for your friend until it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how it is with most people. And there's a lot of folks that they are playing out codependent tendencies. And yes, you might look at that and say, oh my gosh, there's a name for this pattern. Oh my gosh, we generally associate that pattern with being unhealthy. Perhaps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is for those people, because perhaps she does get something out of taking care of another human. Mm-hmm. Perhaps it satiates, you know, an insecurity inside of her, feeling needed. And perhaps she's going to impose those realities on any relationship. So in some ways, it's kind of working for her to have found somebody that is kind of a taker, because that works for her as a giver. You never really know what the chemistry is. And down the road, she could always change her mind and say, you know what? Oh, this is unhealthy. I'm being hurt in this relationship. I don't like it anymore. I'm going to Codependent Anonymous, and I'm going to work my way out of this. Great.
Yeah.
Future her will make that decision. Mm-hmm. Present her has decided to be in it.
So there you go.
And as the resident codependent on this show, let me just say that my heart is shattered that Jacob did not call me his friend. I will be literally thinking about that when I go to sleep tonight.
Yep.
So,
100% believe that.
Yep.
Jim, I want you to know.
That's like every night thinking about Jacob.
When I said
it. Most nights. Only when I'm journaling.
I just want you to know that when I said it.
Yes.
And now, I mean it.
I knew that was
it was only for the bit. No, I
did
100% with all my heart.
The microphones aren't even on.
Look at you. We stopped recording an hour ago.
Yeah.
I just want you to know I still said it. All right. Well, we're at the end of the show, and I want to remind you that you can grab a bunch of stuff at patreon.com/therapy. Every Monday, we release new content that you can grab up there to get you through the week. It's always interesting, deep dives, research, reviews, rants, all sorts of skills, and just really more actionable stuff. And then, of course, we actually record a whole extra portion of this show that you're hearing now It comes out a day early, ad-free. You can get all of that stuff. Again, just go to patreon.com/therapy, and you can use the same podcasting app that you're using right now. Just a few clicks of a button, and boom, you'll have all of our extra content shot right into your ear holes, right where you want it to be.
Even Nick Tangeman can do it.
Even Nick Tangeman.
He doesn't.
He
but
doesn't,
he could.
but he could. I'll bet you Whitney could figure it out in 30 clock seconds. I guarantee you that would happen. So as we said at the beginning of the show, we did record this one a week early. So if you have joined us at patreon.com/therapy since May 23rd, we don't know about it, but we will definitely mention you on the next episode. And remember, whenever you patron the show, we immediately announce you on Twitter, and then we try to announce you on the very next episode. We announce all of our Therapods and hire every single month. And of course, we announce all of our Theraproducers every single episode. So lots of fun there, but we want to thank our Therapartner, Dirty B, and our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Smitty Scoop, Ben Dawn, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Dr. and Mr. Hot Dog Scoop, Malia, Leon Kassab, Cindy Ash, Mason Miller, Richard Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley Slap in Your Face, Polygon, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Mike Helm, Myra, Paris, Samantha Cohn, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder Cougar, Falcon Scoop, Matt and Lisa Tangeman, Heyo, Oscar Swanrose, A Sunny Boy, and Slurpy Kaye, motherfucker.
If you would like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we got for this week's session. Want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to the show today. We really do appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something to keep all to yourself. Share the episode. Tag us on the socials when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Instagram and Twitter, /PodTherapy on Facebook. And don't forget about all those goodies at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Whitney.
Oh, I get what you guys did. I'm Jim.
That's Dr. Jim.
I'm here too.
That's Jacob.
Now, shut up.
He doesn't want any.
Thanks, and we'll see you
Naming
for your
rights.
appointment next week.
Thank you. My laptop died.
My practice. I
Sweaty
can't afford to be
claims.
linked to
Sweaty
this.
claims.
I practice.
Yeah.
This is a sinking ship.